My brother was always the golden child. Everything revolved around him, even when he asked me for $25,000 to invest in some vague new crypto project. I said no, and my parents crossed a line I never thought they would. They left my 9-year-old son alone at a church to send me a message. That was the moment I realized just how far they were willing to go. I didn't raise my voice, but I didn't stay quiet. And believe me, by the time I was done, they never expected the fallout, but it came, piece by piece. I never imagined my own parents could sink that low. Family should be a safe place, not somewhere children get caught in adult decisions. Even the officers who took our statements were visibly shaken by what unfolded next. Before I get into the full story, let me know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments, and if you've ever had to stand up to family pressure, don't forget to like and subscribe, because what happened 4 months later will leave you speechless. Growing up in the Carter household felt more like being part of a royal court than a regular family. My parents, Martin and Elaine Carter, ruled with firm control, and everyone had their assigned role from the start. As the oldest, I was expected to lead by example and always do the right thing. Meanwhile, my younger brother Logan was the golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. From the outside, our home looked like a suburban dream. Trimmed lawn, white fence, and those polished family portraits with big smiles. But behind those doors, things were far from balanced. If Logan fell off his bike, he got an upgraded model the next day. When I earned perfect grades, it was met with a simple as expected. When Logan barely scraped by in school, he was applauded for giving it his best. "Lauren, your brother just needs a little more encouragement," my mom would say whenever I brought up the obvious favoritism. "He's sensitive. You're naturally strong." That so-called natural strength became the label I carried whether I wanted it or not. Very early on, I learned that emotional support wasn't something I could count on from my parents. So I adapted. I became fiercely independent. While most kids my age were sneaking out or rebelling, I was taking shifts at a local cafe, stashing away savings, and mapping out my future through college. By some combination of luck and relentless effort, I earned a scholarship to a top-tier design school. My parents' reaction? "That's nice, but are you sure that's realistic?" Logan's looking into business school. Even with their lukewarm response, I threw myself into college life and thrived. My portfolio won several awards, and I landed internships that opened real doors. Logan, meanwhile, jumped between 3 colleges, offering a new excuse each time. And our parents always stepped in with a financial safety net. It was during my final year at university that I met Daniel Bennett. He was studying architecture, and we crossed paths when our departments teamed up on a campus renovation project. Daniel was everything my family wasn't: genuinely supportive, uplifting, and proud of my growth. After 2 years of dating, we got married in a simple ceremony. My parents came, but their smiles were more for the photos than for us. Logan didn't show at all. Daniel and I built our life on respect and shared goals. When we decided to start a family, it felt like we were building something strong, something we had both longed for. Then came Caleb, and with him, a kind of joy I didn't know I was missing. Strangely, it was only after Caleb was born that my parents took more interest in my life, though it was mostly about their new role as grandparents. And then, everything shifted. 3 years ago, Daniel passed away in a construction site accident. A failure in the structure took him instantly, a mistake that should never have happened. The life we'd built collapsed in an instant, leaving me and a 7-year-old trying to piece it all back together. I was grieving, yes, but I couldn't let it swallow me. Caleb still needed his mom. So I pressed on, pouring myself into our design business and into parenting, trying to be everything at once. My parents offered small gestures here and there. A weekend of babysitting, a holiday invite. But most of their focus and financial help still went to Logan and his latest ideas. I kept some connection with them for Caleb's sake. He deserved to have grandparents in his life, even if their love came with strings I couldn't always explain. Meanwhile, Logan kept chasing one big idea after another. There was a food truck that shut down in 4 months. A groundbreaking app that never made it past the sketch pad, and a house-flipping business that fizzled before the first sale. Each time he stumbled, our parents softened the blow with their savings, slowly draining their retirement to fund his next pitch. Family gatherings grew more and more tense. While Caleb played nearby, completely unaware, I'd catch whispers about Logan's next move. Every time I visited, my parents looked more worn down, bearing the stress of supporting a grown man still trying to find himself. "You could help your brother, you know," my dad said last Thanksgiving as we washed dishes. "You're doing pretty well with your business." Dad, I'm a single mom running a small design studio, not a bank, I said, keeping my tone calm. Family helps family, Lauren. You've always been so stingy with your success. I let the comment pass, like I had so many times before. For Caleb's sake, I smiled through the tension, never expecting things to spiral the way they soon would. It was a gray, rainy Tuesday when Logan popped by my home office without warning. Caleb was at school, and I was knee-deep in a project deadline. The moment I saw him, dressed in clothes I knew he couldn't afford, something felt off. Lauren. My favorite sister, he beamed, arms wide for a hug. I gave him a brief one. I'm your only sister, Logan, I said, motioning to the kitchen. There's coffee if you want some. I've got 20 minutes before my next meeting. Logan followed me into the kitchen, chatting casually, commenting on the weather, a movie he'd just seen, and asking about Caleb. But I could feel it coming, that familiar buildup that always led to a favor. My brother never dropped by just to say hello. After settling in at the kitchen island with a mug of coffee, he finally got to the point. So I've got something huge to share with you, he began, and I wanted you to be the first to hear before I talk to my usual backers. I raised an eyebrow. By usual backers, you mean mom and dad? He waved that off quickly. No, this is different. This is a guaranteed success. He leaned in, eyes lighting up. Cryptocurrency is the future, Lauren. And I've got a lead on a brand new coin that's about to take off. For the next 15 minutes, Logan launched into what he called a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity involving something called 40 token. According to him, this cutting-edge digital currency was poised to triple in value within 6 months, maybe even sooner. I just need a little help to get started, he said, sliding his phone toward me to show charts and projections I didn't understand. $30,000 should cover it. I nearly spit out my coffee. 30,000, Logan? That's outrageous. It's not a handout, he insisted, his tone shifting from eager to defensive. It's an investment. I'll pay you back with interest. You'll get 60,000 in 6 months. Guaranteed. And if it doesn't work out? I asked, though I already knew where this was going. His expression darkened. It's going to work. I've done my research. These people are legit, and the window to invest is closing fast. I frowned. Which people? Who exactly are you working with? He offered a vague explanation about crypto insiders and unnamed tech experts, which only made me more skeptical. Later that evening, after he left, still promising to send over more details, I decided to do some digging of my own. What I found confirmed every suspicion I had. 40 token had all the warning signs of a high-risk project. Anonymous founders, exaggerated claims, and promises that didn't line up with real-world data. The next day, Logan called nonstop until I finally picked up. So, are you in? He asked, skipping over any kind of greeting. I'm sorry, Logan, I said firmly. But I can't give you that kind of money. Everything I've found about 40 token raises major concerns. I really think you should reconsider. That's when his whole attitude flipped. Suddenly I was selfish, unsupportive, and jealous of his potential. When that didn't sway me, he tried a different tactic. Fine. I'll just tell Mom and Dad you refuse to help again. You've always been a disappointment to them anyway. I stayed calm. Logan, I'm a single parent running a small business. Daniel's insurance went straight into Caleb's college fund. I don't have that kind of money to risk on something like this. He ended the call without another word. And just like that, the fallout began. That evening, my phone rang. It was my parents, both of them, their voices heavy with disappointment. Lauren, how could you turn your back on your brother? My mom asked, not even bothering with a hello. Mom, I looked into it. It's not a safe opportunity. I'm trying to protect him and protect you too. We've always known you were jealous of Logan, my dad jumped in. But trying to ruin his shot at something big? That's a new low. The phone calls didn't stop. Every one of them was more pointed than the last, full of guilt, pressure, and judgment. I held firm, even offering to help Logan look into more secure investment options. But none of my suggestions seemed to matter. 1 week after Logan first came by, my father called again. This time his voice was colder. Your mother and I have made a decision. We're going to support Logan ourselves. We're taking out a second mortgage on the house. That's what family does, we stick together. Dad, please, I said, trying to stay calm. I've looked into the company. There are real concerns. We don't need your opinion, he cut me off. Just remember this, family steps up. You've made your choice. And there will be consequences. You'll understand soon enough. Then he hung up. I stared at my phone, stunned. Consequences? For saying no to an investment I couldn't afford and didn't trust? I brushed it off, assuming it was just more pressure, more of the same emotional games I'd grown used to. I focused on my work and on being present for Caleb. But what they meant by consequences was something I never could have predicted. And it involved the one person I would have done anything to protect. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon and school had just let out. I was standing outside Caleb's elementary school, growing more anxious with every minute that passed. The playground had emptied. The crossing guard was packing up. Still no sign of my son. Mrs. Bennett, Caleb's teacher, walked over, concern written all over her face. Is everything okay? I thought Caleb left early today, she said gently. My heart dropped. What? Left early? With who? Your parents, she replied, looking confused. They're listed on your emergency pickup form. They said there was a family situation. The ground seemed to shift beneath me. I hadn't spoken to my parents since that last heated call. Why would they take Caleb without telling me? I called them over and over on the drive home, hoping they were there with him. No answer. I tried their house. Nothing. Straight to voicemail every time. Panic started to set in. I reached out to everyone I could think of, neighbors, extended family, even Logan. No one answered. By that evening, I had rallied neighbors to help search. I called hospitals, retraced possible routes, and was moments away from calling the police when my phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. Hello, is this Lauren Bennett? A calm voice asked. Yes, I said quickly. Who's calling? This is Father Andrew from Grace Hill Chapel. I believe your son is here with us. That drive to the church felt like the longest 15 minutes of my life. I rushed through the entrance and found Caleb sitting in a quiet office, sipping hot chocolate, a kind priest and a kind woman by his side. Mommy, he shouted, running straight into my arms. I scooped him up, hugging him tight as tears rolled down my face. Are you hurt? Are you okay? I asked, checking him over as gently as I could, my hands trembling. I'm okay, he whispered. But Grandma and Grandpa said you didn't want me anymore. They said you picked money over family, and I had to stay here until you learned your lesson. Father Andrew explained kindly that my parents had left Caleb at the church entrance with just a backpack, a change of clothes, and a handwritten note. The message said he needed temporary care while his mother sorted out her priorities. The priest had found the situation odd and thankfully got my contact info from Caleb. Shortly after, the police arrived to take our statements. Officer Leah Collins knelt to speak softly with Caleb, but I saw the change in her expression when I explained the background, the financial request, the family argument, and what followed. So let me get this straight, she said, pausing her pen over her notepad. Your parents picked up your son without your knowledge and left him at a church because you wouldn't give your brother money? Hearing it phrased so plainly made the weight of it all hit me like a wave. This wasn't just a disagreement anymore. This was serious, and it involved my son. After the officers left with promises to follow up, I sat beside Caleb on his bed, surrounded by his favorite stuffed animals. He seemed okay physically, but I could tell the experience had left him confused and shaken. Mommy, why did Grandma and Grandpa leave me? Was I bad? He asked, his voice small. No, sweetheart. Not at all, I said, stroking his hair. Grandma and Grandpa made a really poor choice. They're upset about something between adults, but none of this is your fault. Are they going to be in trouble? He asked, wide-eyed. I hesitated, unsure what to say. I don't know, honey. But I do know this, you're safe now. And I'm not going to let anyone take you away again. Even with my reassurances, Caleb woke up 3 times that night, scared and crying. Each time, I held him close, my heart breaking and my frustration quietly building. How could my parents do something so hurtful just to prove a point? The next morning, things moved quickly. A social worker named Jasmine Ortiz arrived to check on Caleb and make sure he was okay. She was compassionate but thorough, explaining that cases like this require documentation and follow-up to ensure a child's safety. We know this wasn't your doing, Mrs. Bennett, she said gently. But any time a child is left in someone else's care unexpectedly, we have to take it seriously. While I navigated the paperwork and interviews, my phone lit up nonstop, but not with support. Somehow my parents had twisted the story. The version spreading through our extended family was that I had abandoned my responsibilities and my parents had simply been watching Caleb while I figured things out. The truth was getting buried under family drama. My best friend, Rachel Kim, showed up without me even asking. She brought groceries and offered to watch Caleb while I dealt with the calls and the paperwork. This is unbelievable, Lauren, she said as she put lunch on the table. Have your parents completely lost it? Seems like it, I sighed, scrolling through my phone, only to realize I'd been blocked. Not just by my parents, but by Logan and several other relatives. They've cut me off, I said, stunned. And I have no idea what lies they're spreading about me now. What can I do? Rachel asked. Just being here helps more than you know, I told her honestly. But I need to find a lawyer. And probably a therapist for Caleb and honestly for myself too. By the end of the week, I'd hired Monica Ramirez, a seasoned attorney specializing in family law. I also booked sessions with Dr. Nolan Green, a child therapist the school counselor had highly recommended. The financial hit was immediate. Between legal fees, therapy bills, and the time I had to take off work to support Caleb, my emergency savings started draining fast. But the emotional toll was heavier. Caleb became clingy, scared to go to school, and constantly worried I might leave too. In the middle of everything, something beautiful happened. Our school community stepped up. Caleb's teacher started a meal train. The principal added extra safety checks at dismissal. Even parents I barely knew offered help and playdates. My clients also surprised me with kindness. When I explained the situation, most offered flexibility instead of pressure. One of my biggest clients sent a simple note. Take care of your boy. The work can wait. As the dust settled, the truth became even harder to face. The people who were supposed to protect us, my own parents, had done something I still struggle to fully accept. They had scared and confused my child as a way of punishing me for not handing over money to my brother. And I was left trying to make sense of it all while keeping our lives together. How do you explain to a 9-year-old that sometimes the people who say they love you the most are the ones who cause the most pain? Soon after, I found myself outside the courthouse, holding Caleb's next therapy appointment card tightly in my hand. Monica had called an emergency meeting to discuss filing official charges. The weight of it sat heavy in my chest. This is a big step, Monica reminded me as we sat in her office, surrounded by family law certificates and thank you drawings from former clients. Once you sign, we move forward. And that means there's no going back. I looked at her, trying to stay composed. They left him in someone else's care without informing me. With a backpack. They said things that made him believe I didn't care. How is that not serious? Monica nodded. It is. Very serious. But I want you to be sure. I've been doing this for 2 decades and I've never seen a child heal by pretending nothing happened. I took a breath and signed. That same afternoon, Caleb sat quietly across from Dr. Bennett, carefully arranging toy figures on a small table. These therapy sessions had become part of our routine. He's placed the child figure inside a box today, Dr. Bennett observed softly. He's working through feelings of fear and uncertainty using symbolic play. Is he improving? I asked in a whisper. Healing isn't a straight path, he replied gently. He was finally letting his feelings out instead of keeping them bottled up, and that at least was a good sign. He's a tough kid. But even with his strength, the nightmares didn't stop. Caleb would wake up screaming, convinced that his grandparents were coming to take him away again. School mornings turned into emotional battles filled with tears and anxiety. His teacher mentioned that he barely interacted with the other kids at recess anymore. He'd rather stay close to the adults nearby, while Caleb was wrestling with what was going on inside him. I was dealing with a different kind of struggle on the outside. Filing charges against my parents had turned our entire extended family upside down. Cousins I had grown up with started sending cruel messages, accusing me of tearing everything apart. Even Aunt Denise, who had always seemed kind, left a voicemail saying I was ungrateful and out for revenge. But honestly, the silence from others hurt just as much as the criticism. People who had spent every holiday with us, who had watched Caleb grow up, suddenly went quiet. Then came someone I never expected, an ally I hadn't heard from in years. It was my father's sister, Aunt Marcia. We'd barely spoken since I was a kid because of some old family tension. She called me out of the blue. Lauren, it's Marcia, she said. I heard about everything that's happened, and I just want you to know, I think you're doing the right thing. We met up for coffee the next day, and she started sharing stories about deep family patterns I had never been aware of. Your father was always the golden child, she told me. Our parents emptied their savings to back his failed ventures while telling me I had to make it on my own. Sounds familiar, I replied quietly. I cut them off after they refused to help with my husband's medical expenses, but gave your dad money for a boat the same month, she said. That was the best decision I ever made. She reached across the table and gave my hand a gentle squeeze. Breaking the cycle is hard, she said, but it's necessary. Her support gave me the strength I needed for what came next. The first court hearing. Walking into that courtroom and seeing my parents sitting there with their lawyer didn't even feel real. They looked smaller somehow. Older. But their expressions showed no regret. My mom wouldn't look at me. My dad stared straight ahead, his jaw clenched just like I remembered. The hearing was short but incredibly difficult. They read statements aloud, including Father Andrew's account of finding Caleb alone on church property. My parents pleaded not guilty. Their attorney claimed they'd left Caleb in a safe place out of concern for him while I was supposedly going through a personal crisis. It was a complete fabrication. Outside the courthouse, Logan showed up in the parking lot. "So, are you happy now?" he said, cutting across my path as I headed to the car where Rachel waited with Caleb. "Mom and Dad could end up losing everything because you couldn't help out when we needed you. They left my child behind, Logan," I snapped. "This isn't about money. They took out a mortgage on the house because you wouldn't lend a hand," he shot back, his face flushed. "Now they could lose it all. That was their decision," I told him. "And using Caleb like that? That was on them too." His face shifted from angry to something even colder. "You've always thought you were better than the rest of us," he muttered. "So go ahead, enjoy standing up on that high horse while Mom and Dad lose their home." Learning they had actually mortgaged the house hit me harder than I expected. Even after all that had happened, I couldn't bring myself to feel good about their financial problems. But I also knew I wasn't the one responsible for the choices they had made. The legal process moved slowly, and in the meantime, our healing felt like it was stuck. Caleb's birthday passed without a call or even a card from his grandparents. The silence said more than words ever could, and trying to explain that to him was heartbreaking. "Sometimes people we care about make choices that hurt us," I told him as we ate birthday cake together. "But that doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Do you think they'll ever love me again?" he asked. His voice was steady, but the pain in his eyes gave him away. "They do love you," I said gently, though I wasn't entirely sure. "They just don't know how to show it the right way." The pressure was taking a toll on every part of our lives. There were anonymous calls in the middle of the night. Someone damaged our window during that tense time, leaving a message full of blame. The school even contacted me after a strange man had been asking questions about Caleb's schedule. I ended up installing a pricey security system I could barely afford. Through it all, I kept repeating what Dr. Bennett had told me. "You're not responsible for what other people do, only for how you respond." So I focused on creating as much stability for Caleb as I could, even while trying to regain some peace for myself. I thought about moving, maybe to a different neighborhood or even a whole new city, but Caleb had already been through so much, and pulling him away from his school and the few supportive people we had left felt like too much. Instead, I shifted my focus to redefining what family really meant for the two of us. "Family isn't always about who you're related to," I told Caleb one evening, while we made picture frames for photos of Rachel and her husband. "Sometimes family is just the people who show up when life gets hard." As the 3-month mark of that awful day approached, I started to feel something change in me. The pain and shock had slowly hardened into something else, determination. I was committed to protecting my son and myself from any relationship that drained us. No matter who it was. I wasn't waiting around anymore for apologies or for my parents to finally understand what they had done. I was moving forward whether they ever caught up or not. It felt like a painful kind of freedom, realizing that family could be both your deepest hurt and your greatest loss. But somewhere in that pain, a sense of clarity broke through. Caleb deserved more than love with conditions, and honestly, so did I. I was in the middle of reviewing client design work when a news alert popped up on my laptop screen. "Major cryptocurrency scheme exposed, investors lose millions." With shaky hands, I clicked the link, already bracing myself for what I knew was coming. The article described a sophisticated investment scheme centered around Secure Coin, the very one Logan had pushed so hard to join. Federal authorities had taken action against individuals connected to the company. After reports of misleading financial promises, my phone rang almost immediately. It was Monica. "Have you seen the news?" she asked without even saying hello. "I'm looking at it now," I replied, scanning for any sign of Logan's name. "Authorities requested an interview," she continued. "Your brother's name came up in their investigation." My stomach dropped. "As a victim or something else?" I asked. "They didn't say. Just that they're sending someone to talk to you tomorrow morning." The next day, Agent Tyler Brooks sat across from me at my kitchen table. His tone was professional, but not unfriendly. "To be clear, Mrs. Bennett," he began, "we're investigating the leaders of Secure Coin. Your brother, Logan Carter, appears to have been involved as a mid-level recruiter, bringing in new investors for commission." The words hit like a punch. So he hadn't just invested, he'd been recruiting others, including me. That's what we believe, the agent said. The $25,000 he asked from you would have moved him into a higher commission bracket. Agent Brooks flipped through his notes. Did he mention specific returns or guarantee a profit? I nodded, remembering Logan's eager pitch. He promised it would triple in 6 months. That's a major red flag, the agent said. No legitimate investment makes guarantees like that. After I answered all of their questions, I sat in stunned silence. Logan hadn't just fallen for a scheme, he had helped bring others into it. And then the thought hit me, had our parents known, did they give him money from their home equity knowing it was tied to this? Some of that became clearer the following week when Monica called again. Your parents' house is in foreclosure, she said. It looks like they missed several mortgage payments. The money they gave Logan, I whispered. Most likely, she said gently. This doesn't change anything with the case about Caleb, but I thought you should know. I thanked her and hung up, emotions swirling. Part of me felt a sense of validation. They had warned me about consequences for not helping family, but now they were facing consequences for the choices they had made. Still, another part of me felt only sadness for how far it had all gone. 2 days later, there was a knock at the door. My father stood on the porch, looking worn down and years older. Dad, I said automatically, stepping forward, then stopping myself. Thankfully, Caleb was out at a playdate with Rachel's son and didn't see him. Lauren, he said, his voice lacking its usual confidence. May I come in? Against my better judgment, I opened the door and led him to the living room, but made sure we sat apart. What do you want? I asked, skipping formalities. He glanced around the space I had built with Daniel, now kept together on my own. The bank is taking the house, he finally said. Your mother's staying with Megan for now. I heard, I said calmly, waiting for whatever came next. This wasn't supposed to happen, he muttered, staring down at his hands. Logan said it was a good opportunity. Reliable. Time-sensitive. Nothing is guaranteed, Dad. Especially not something that claims to triple your money in 6 months. He looked up sharply. You knew it was a scam, didn't you? That's why you wouldn't give him the money. I suspected something was wrong, yes, I replied. I tried to warn you. You could have tried harder, he snapped. A glimpse of the old Martin Carter breaking through. Like you tried harder not to leave my son, your grandson, at a church? I said, my voice rising. What are you really doing here? His shoulders dropped. We need help, Lauren. Your mother and I, we don't have anywhere else to go. I was speechless for a moment. After everything, they were standing here asking for help. You left Caleb, an 8-year-old child, completely alone. You told him I didn't want him. He still has nightmares. And now you're asking me to take you in? We made a mistake, he said, but the way he said it made it sound like a small misstep, not a serious act of harm. We were desperate. Logan told us his plan would fix everything if we just invested enough. A mistake. I repeated. A mistake is forgetting to pick someone up from practice. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was calculated and caused real harm to a child. We're still your parents, Lauren, he said, voice starting to harden. Really? What have you actually done for me that wasn't done 2 times over for Logan? When Daniel passed away, you babysat Caleb, twice, Dad. I was a widowed mother trying to keep a business alive, and you were too busy backing Logan's food truck idea to help. Just then, the front door opened. Mom, I'm home, Caleb called as he walked in, Rachel right behind him. Her expression shifted quickly when she saw who was in the room. Caleb froze the moment his eyes met my father's. His small body tensed. Grandpa, he said. Voice uneasy. The fear in his voice made everything crystal clear. Dad, you need to leave, I said firmly. Come give your grandpa a hug, my father said, ignoring me completely. Caleb stepped closer to Rachel, backing away. No thank you, he whispered. My father's face darkened. Look at what you've done, he said. You've turned him against his family. Rachel, could you take Caleb to his room for a bit? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Once they were gone, I turned back to him. You did this. Not me. You broke his trust when you left him behind, and now you want to blame me for how he feels. My mother and I need somewhere to stay, Lauren. Just until we figure things out. No, I said, my voice steady. I won't bring that kind of energy back into our lives. Caleb deserves better. And so do I. So, after everything we've given for this family, you're just going to turn your back on your parents? I'm not turning my back, I replied calmly. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. He stood up, the sadness on his face quickly giving way to frustration. Your brother was right about you. You've always thought you were better than everyone else. As he walked toward the door, I called after him. Dad, I really do hope you and Mom land on your feet. But it won't be by leaning on me or Caleb ever again. After he left, I sat down with Caleb and tried to explain the situation as gently as I could. Sometimes adults make bad decisions when they're scared or upset, I said. Like when I hit Tyler last year because he took my action figure? Caleb asked. Something like that, I nodded. But bigger. Much bigger. And now they need to take responsibility for what happened. Are they going to be without a house? He asked, his concern shining through even with everything he'd been through. No, sweetheart. Other family members are helping them. But they won't be staying with us. Good, he said quietly. They scare me now. His honesty was so simple and it shattered my heart all over again. Later that night, an anonymous email appeared in my inbox. The subject line read, "Your brother knew." Attached were messages between Logan and the Secure Coin founders. They discussed how to recruit new people and outlined commission tiers. One message stood out. Logan had written, "They're good for at least $180,000. Working on my sister too, but she's more skeptical." That line sent a chill down my spine. I forwarded the entire threat to Monica, who confirmed it should be passed along to the FBI. But before I did that, I had a moral dilemma to face. Should I warn my parents that Logan had knowingly put them at risk? Or would they just dismiss everything like they always had, siding with him no matter the proof? Some patterns don't change, no matter how much evidence is in front of you. After consulting with both Monica and Dr. Bennett, I decided to organize a meeting on neutral ground. Monica offered her firm's conference room, complete with extra staff nearby in case things got tense. The FBI's investigation into Secure Coin was already moving forward, but Agent Brooks agreed to hold off on interviewing my parents until after the meeting. "You don't owe them this, you know," Monica said as we prepared the space. "They didn't give you or Caleb this kind of grace." "I know," I replied with a sigh. "But I need to do this my way. I need to look them in the eyes when they find out what Logan did." She nodded, understanding even if she didn't fully agree. My parents were the first to arrive. They looked worn down, smaller somehow. My mom, Elaine, who always used to look so polished, showed up with mismatched earrings and unbrushed hair. My father's earlier defiance had faded into something closer to resignation. Logan arrived last, walking in with that same forced confidence, designer sunglasses perched on his head despite the cloudy sky. His smile faded slightly when he saw Monica seated next to me. "What's this, some kind of intervention?" he said with a weak laugh, choosing the seat farthest from me. "Something like that," I replied evenly. "Can we make this quick?" Logan asked, checking his watch. "I've got a meeting with investors." The irony wasn't lost on any of us. "More cryptocurrency investors?" I asked, opening my laptop. "Like the ones from Secure Coin?" His expression shifted just slightly before settling back into calm denial. That situation was unfortunate. I was a victim too. "Were you?" I asked, rotating my laptop to face him. "Because these messages say something else." My mother gasped as she read the screen. "What is this?" she whispered. "It's proof," I said. Logan wasn't just an investor. He was helping recruit people, including his own family, for commission. "That's ridiculous," my father said, though he leaned in to read the emails more closely. "Where did you even get this?" "It came anonymously," I explained. "But I had a digital forensics expert verify the files. They're real." Logan's confidence cracked. "Those are taken out of context," he said quickly. "Everyone was going to make money. Except it was a pyramid scheme," I said. "The only people who profited were the founders, and recruiters like you." My mother's hand trembled as she pointed to the line about the house. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew we could lose our home." "I was trying to help," Logan said. "If you had just invested earlier, before the feds stepped in." "The feds?" my father repeated, going pale. "You mean the government is involved?" "The FBI has already arrested the leaders," I confirmed. "And Agent Brooks wants to speak with all of you." I asked him to wait until after this meeting. The words landed heavily. My mother began crying quietly. My father looked at Logan with dawning realization. "We gave you everything," he said, barely above a whisper. "Our savings. The house. Our future." Logan's demeanor changed, his defensiveness melting into panic. "I didn't think it would end like this. I was going to fix it before anyone found out." "With what?" I asked. The money you were trying to get from me? More victims. He had no response. Then my father turned to me, his face unreadable. Why show us this? Just to rub it in? To say I told you so? No, I answered quietly but firmly. I'm showing you because despite everything you're still my parents. You deserve to know the truth before the FBI questions you. And because when I said no to Logan, I was trying to protect all of us, including him. So now what? My mother asked, dabbing at her eyes. Are we supposed to thank you for this? Her bitterness didn't surprise me. Some things are deeply ingrained. No, I said, sitting up straighter. Now we talk about how to move forward. I handed them each a copy of a document Monica had helped me prepare. It outlined what would be required for any future relationship with me or Caleb. The expectations were simple. No unsupervised contact with Caleb unless he personally requested it. A commitment to family counseling with Dr. Bennett before regular visits. A formal apology to Caleb. And full cooperation with the FBI investigation. This is ridiculous, my father scoffed, pushing the paper away. We don't need your permission to see our grandson. Actually, you do, Monica said calmly but firmly. Given the record of abandonment, any court would grant Lauren full authority over contact with Caleb. My mother looked at me upset. You're shutting us out over one misunderstanding? I shook my head. It wasn't a mistake, I said gently. It was a choice. A conscious decision to involve Caleb in something no child should ever be part of. I paused, then added, and it wasn't just a single moment. It was the result of years of decisions that always put Logan first, even when it cost you financially and harmed Caleb emotionally. I let out a steady breath. I'm offering a way forward, conditional forgiveness. What you do with that offer is up to you. But hear this clearly. I will never again let Caleb be caught in the middle of this family's dysfunction. At that, my father stood abruptly. We're not signing this. Come on, Elaine. My mother wavered for a second, glancing between us, then quietly rose and followed him. The authorities will be in contact, I said as they walked away. Your cooperation or lack of it will shape what comes next. Logan didn't move. He just sat there, staring at the email still open on my laptop. You could have erased those, he murmured. Protected me like you always protected them. Or me. Or Caleb. His voice faltered. I messed up. I was overwhelmed with financial pressure. I thought Secure Coin could fix everything. That admission caught me off guard. Gambling? I echoed. He nodded. I started back in college. Every time something failed, I tried to recover the losses, and it got out of hand. He rubbed his face, visibly worn out. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, but it spiraled out of control. And now we're all dealing with the consequences. His voice was low now, all bravado gone. What happens with the investigation? He asked. I'm not sure, I said honestly. It depends on what you share with them, how honest you are, and what evidence they've already collected. And us? You and me, he asked. I took a moment. Right now I can't have you in my life, Logan. Maybe someday, maybe not. But I'll help you get the support you need for your gambling issue if you want it. That's the only thing I can offer. He looked like he wanted to argue, but instead, he let out a breath. I'd like that. The help, I mean? Just then, we heard movement in the hallway. Agent Brooks stepped into the room, accompanied by two colleagues. Logan Carter? He asked in a calm, professional tone. Logan nodded slowly, understanding the seriousness of the situation. Without a word, he stood and followed them out. He paused for a moment, glancing back at me with a mix of regret and something unspoken, then continued on. Monica came over and gently rested a hand on my shoulder. You did what you had to for Caleb and for yourself. I nodded, though the emotions swirling inside weren't easy to name. It wasn't triumph I felt. Not even relief. It was closer to grief. Grief for the family I had imagined and acceptance of the one I actually had. 7 months later, Caleb and I were in our new living room, surrounded by boxes in the promise of a new beginning. We hadn't moved far. Just enough to start fresh while keeping him in the same school with the friends and teachers who had supported him. Can I hang my space posters in my new room? Caleb asked, already looking more at ease than he had in months. Of course, I smiled. And maybe we can even get a few new ones. The decision to move came once Logan's legal situation had been settled. He avoided jail by fully cooperating with the investigation. Instead, he was given 4 years of probation required to complete treatment for his gambling habits, and assigned a significant amount of community service. My parents lost their house but managed to get into a small apartment with the help of my cousin Megan. Their relationship with me and Caleb? Progress was very slow. They declined therapy at first, still insisting they hadn't done anything truly wrong. But as the truth about Secure Coin became public, their defense grew harder to maintain. 4 months after our confrontation, my mom reached out, tentatively asking if she could send Caleb a birthday card. It was a small gesture, but it meant something. The card arrived without any guilt or pressure. Just a kind note and a small gift card. Caleb studied it for a while, then asked, "Does this mean Grandma's not mad at me anymore?" "She was never upset with you, buddy," I told him. "Sometimes adults make poor decisions when they're overwhelmed, but none of this was your fault, Dr. Bennett had been instrumental in helping Caleb work through everything. He's learning to speak up about what makes him uncomfortable," the doctor shared during one session. That's a huge step forward for a child his age, and it showed. After receiving a couple more kind and appropriate cards, Caleb asked if he could see my mom, but only if the visit was supervised. We agreed to meet at a neutral park, with Dr. Bennett present. The visit lasted just 30 minutes but ended peacefully. That small win was followed by ice cream and a shared sense of relief. My father, on the other hand, remained distant. His pride kept him from admitting the impact of his actions. We'd only spoken briefly, twice, and both times the conversation stayed polite but shallow. His journey toward healing would be longer, if it ever happened at all. The biggest surprise came in the form of a letter from Logan, sent from his treatment center about 4 months into his program. "I'm working through the recovery steps," he wrote. "I know I can't make things right just by saying sorry. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm finally facing the truth about what I've done." I read it more than once, unsure how to reply. Eventually, I sent back a short message, acknowledging the letter and wishing him success in recovery, without making any promises about where our relationship might go from there. Meanwhile, work had unexpectedly taken a turn for the better. Pouring my energy into my business during that chaotic time brought new clients and attention in the design world. I even hired an assistant, which helped me keep a healthier balance between work and home. "Mom, can we invite Auntie Rachel and Uncle Derek for dinner after we finish unpacking?" Caleb asked one evening, carefully lining his books on the shelf. "I love that idea," I said with a smile, "and maybe we can talk to them about becoming your godparents, officially." His eyes lit up. "Really? That would be amazing." His excitement didn't surprise me. The idea wasn't something I came up with on the spot. Rachel and Derek had been there for us through every step of the chaos, offering steady support without ever needing to be asked. When I brought up the possibility of naming them as Caleb's legal guardians, just in case anything ever happened to me, they didn't hesitate. There were hugs, there were tears, and there was a resounding yes. "Family isn't just who you're related to," Rachel had told me once, repeating something I had said to Caleb not long before. That belief had become the cornerstone of how we started rebuilding our lives. We started creating our own traditions. Sunday game nights with close friends, monthly volunteer days in the community, and once every few months, an adventure weekend, where we explored something completely new, just the two of us. On our first evening in the new house, Caleb and I sat on the back porch, watching fireflies begin to glow against the fading light. "Mom," he asked out of the blue, "do you think people can really change?" "I think they can," I replied honestly. "But it takes time and real effort." He was quiet for a moment. "I was just thinking about Grandma, Grandpa, and Uncle Logan. Do you think they'll change?" I gently wrapped my arm around his shoulder. "I hope so, buddy. But what really matters is that we've changed. We're stronger now. We know how to protect ourselves. And we have our chosen family," he added, using the exact term Dr. Bennett had taught us. "That's right," I smiled. "People who care about us for who we are, not for what we can give them." That night, as Caleb fell asleep in his new bedroom, half his boxes still unpacked, space posters already on the wall, I sat there reflecting. The past several months had pushed me to my limits, but they had also brought clarity. I had discovered that standing your ground when someone tries to manipulate you isn't selfish. It's healthy. That boundaries aren't walls to keep people out, but fences to protect what matters most. I'd learned that family could be a source of deep hurt or profound healing, depending on who you let into that space. Most importantly, I showed Caleb that real love doesn't ask you to give up your dignity or your sense of safety. And for me, that lesson made every hard decision worthwhile. 10 days after we moved in, we hosted a small housewarming get-together. Rachel and Derek came, of course, along with a few neighbors from our old community, some work friends, Caleb's teacher Ms. Lauren Foster, Dr. Bennett and his wife, and even Aunt Marcia, who had become a much more regular part of our lives. Our home filled with warmth, laughter, and the kind of easy conversations that made the space feel alive. As I looked around at everyone gathered there, I felt something I hadn't in a very long time: peace. We were still healing, and healing doesn't always follow a clear path, but we were finally moving forward. And we were doing it surrounded by people who truly had our best interests at heart. That, more than anything, was the real takeaway from everything we'd been through. Real family, whether by blood or by choice, should support you, protect you, and love you without strings attached. Some people are born into that kind of family. Others, like Caleb and me, have to build it piece by piece. And now I'm wondering, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have taken legal action after what my parents did? Would you have given your brother the money he asked for? Let me know in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button for more true life stories like this one. And remember, setting boundaries isn't about pushing people away. It's about protecting what matters most. Thanks for listening to our story. I hope it brings a bit of comfort or clarity to anyone going through something similar.